It's the morning of May the 2nd, 2015. I'm Dana Durnford, your host, NuclearProctologist.org, and you can find these videos and Fukushima presentations live throughout the entire internet. And we are extremely grateful for that opportunity. We are the #1 provider of documentation and information, and accurate information and peer review studies, and just a smorgasbord that we bring to the table, and that we've actually done 260 days on the ocean, on Expeditions for Life, 5 of them, and that there was nothing easy about that, and the whole planet rallied so that that can be done. And what that showed was an extinction event playing out in British Columbia, Canada. I'm in Powell River, British Columbia, Canada. It's a little rinky-dinky town in the middle of nowhere, isolated by ferries. And if you don't know Canada very well, we have 26,000 islands here in British Columbia. And we showed an extinction event. We went out and documented that throughout the coastline. And we done that by raising money, and we still got to raise money for everything else we want to do. And you can donate at NuclearProctologist.org with your credit cards, or you can go to the links and you can go to PayPal, Dana Durnford at hotmail.com. It's very important that, because I'm an independent and that I put myself out on the front lines all the time, I'm the one who takes all the beatings. I'm the one who's going to get demonized, and did many times now, particularly in the media and throughout the internet. But nobody bothers to go after my narrative, only the nonsense, and we dispel that immediately. And you got to realize we've done 15,000 miles of the coastline, where the coastline was normally healthy. It's now, this is Louise and Errol's, both of those pictures, post-Fukushima. This is post-Fukushima, the other picture, pre-Fukushima, from the same spot, just to give you an idea so you can wrap your mind around what we're talking about. Was we got an extinction event, and this spot is one of the most coveted spots on the planet. Today we're going to talk about mutations, but it's important you understand that we covered 9,000 headlines before we went on the ocean, and that without your support we can't exist in the capacity that we need to exist. And that's the problem. You know, Greenpeace has all this power, but do you see Greenpeace out there doing the coastline of British Columbia, Canada, which is directly across? Of course not. How come? Do they not have lots of boats and helicopters and volunteers and monetary to go do something like that? Did you not see any of your universities from anywhere on the planet come here and do the 26,000 islands of British Columbia, Canada? Look at the tidal zones. Look at the most vulnerable part of the ocean. Look at the nursery of the ocean. No, you did not. And then the only person who done it was us. Was me. But I don't exist without everybody. I exist because of everybody. I exist because everybody wanted someone out there to go toe to toe. And I'm pretty sure I proved myself that I'm a good source. I'm a reliable source, that I provide the documentation literally as I'm talking in every aspect of it. Let's go over and get into the headlines. I know everybody's scratching away at themselves. Now, I'm not trying to replace Christina Consolo. So go over and see her material on mutations and the Wigner effects and stuff like that. And you can go start to find her at Radchick on YouTube. You'll find links below to her, a climbing viewer. And she is a very unhealthy lady, and she's young, and just an amazing smorgasbord of documentation and information. And she's not a screaming demon like me. She does get upset, don't get me wrong. She does let people have it, don't get me wrong. But she has a much more palatable way of doing it than my knock them down, pound them, ground them routines. So if you can't handle me, she's the better one for sure, if you want to get learning. And so that's Radchick, Christina Consolo. You'll find the links below. Wonderful soul. And Kate is, before we start the headlines today, we got 90 of them. Kate is in New Hampshire, down where Adam is too. Arr, yar, Adam. And that's part of her journey. And she ran the Fukushima Hound, still has it, which was an instrumental site. It's an independent site, instrumental though, and in supporting Expeditions for Life, showing you the documentation. 260 days, up to 5 months without coming home. And once again, I'm going to need your people's support desperately to do the things we got to get done. To buy the equipment, like Skype machine is $7,000. To go out and do tours. Once I get to that stage, the operation will pay for itself, I'm hoping. And at the same time, we can pay back everybody, is what I'm also hoping in the near future, in the future. Well, I know that will happen. That will be my legacy. That everybody on this planet supported me to get something done that I knew I had to get done. And then, if I got lucky enough, I was able to pay back everybody who sacrificed. And so that's with me every day. I think about that every day. It's not just a cliche. It never was, never will be. And people will know that about me and will understand that in the future and when they look back at me. Jana Press filmed Mutant Rabbits, born near Fukushima Daiichi. Now, you'll get this in super high quality, 1080, really good quality, but you can only stream in certain quality. And so if you want to read the very nuances of anything, if you got a problem with your eyesight and you can't read properly, in about 3 hours after this stream is over, you'll find a very high quality post of that beautiful girl by Dana on YouTube. June 10th, 2011. March, April, May, June. So within 3 months, of course, rabbits are breeding like rabbits. There's a cliche. And a mutant rabbit was born. And so, June 11, no one yet wants to think about the potential effects of radiation on babies born around that autumn. Tokyo radiation continuously high. Now, these stories are all related and sourced out to be radiation caused by radiation. Some of them might be on a fence for people. That's fine. We got 90 of them. I can assure you 9/10 are indisputable, incontestable. Tokyo radiation, think about that. Continuously high since raining on March the 21st. Tokyo. How many times does it have to rain in your community of a nuclear accident, extraordinary numbers, for your community to be contaminated? Anybody? Do it disappear? Do it turn something harmless and in a short period of time? Once the rain hits the ground, does it become harmless? Does it become harmless the year after year after year after year? Well, the ones that want to deceive you, manipulate you, and trick you will tell you to worry about iodine, but when you go look it up, it's got an 8-day half-life. But iodine is an indicator of a brand new release that happened 8 days ago, per se. Or it's got 10 half-life, so 80 days ago. How stupid is that? Because it changes to another isotope. Have they ever told you what the other 9 isotopes were that iodine 131 changed to? No. Have they told you what the uranium would change to? Or plutonium, or americium, or neptunians? Or the strontium, or the cesiums? With long half-lives. Or the thousands of other radioactive isotopes. So they get in the grass, they get in the flowers, they get in the sap, they get in the honey, they get into the life, the exchange of life. You know, you can put... Think about something where you can put 2 million on the head of a needle, you can't see it. Now think about taking one of them. Just one. Not the 2 million, rather. That is on the head of a needle you can't see, but one. Now let's put that right in the center of your body. Okay, it's in your body, kind of like in a sarcophagus. That's your opinion, maybe, yeah? But if I take a Geiger counter right here, I can read that isotope. I can probably read it from right here. I can read it from past there, where you can't even see, where I can't even see. Certain types of isotopes. Certainly cesium, I can read it out to here, with a full body counter or with a Geiger counter. Now, if I put a potassium-40 in your body, I can't read it. If I got it right there and put it on the Geiger counter, sniffer, I can't read it. Okay, now that's kind of interesting, isn't it? So as we go into these mutations, once you understand this part. So, If it's in your body, I can still read away over here, but my body's really thick, full of meat. Is plants like that? No. Is vegetation thick like my body? No. In the context of, if it's in one plant, it's radiating all the other plants in a circumference. And they, by proxy, become radiated and start producing mutated plants. And so it's the same thing with embryos, it's the same thing with eggs, it's the same thing with larvae, it's the same thing with the 8 million species on this planet. What's here is there, because they live in a little zone. And where a square meter could have 1 million creatures, where a glass of water could have 1 billion, and 75 to 100 million animal phytoplankton. Okay, and so if there's one drop in that water, not only can it radiate everything in that glass of water, it can radiate somebody a couple of feet away from that glass of water. Your Geiger counter can pick it up. Therefore, you're being hit. Now, you're being hit every second. Boom, boom, boom. Now, you can put 2 million on the head of a needle, you can't see it. Imagine you got 2 million of them in your body. Now you got 2 million pounds coming out of you. 2 million directions. So when the fish are ingesting it, or the animals are ingesting it, then they're able to radiate their sperm and their eggs and their newborns, even though their newborn might not even have it in them. Which is, when it comes to Fukushima though, that's almost impossible to imagine. Because there's so much release. And that the reactors were consuming steel and rebar and everything else. So let's burn through the headlines. Here we go. So the stuff that fell in Tokyo is there forever. And it'll mutate the insects and then the animals and larvae forever. And where it fell in North America is there forever. And if we don't try to solve a few of the riddles, we'll be impacted by it forever. But the evidence is in all the headlines you're going to see coming up. Good morning, everybody, by the way. And we'll catch you at the end of the show today, I guess, because I'm just yakking in the context of, not yakking, but setting the framework so that you can comprehend it. But I got some really good stuff coming up. But this is all headlines. We're not into pictures, because people take a picture and say, Dana, plants mutate in nature all the time, Dana. And fascination. Well, yeah, we're aware of that, okay? We're not talking about that, huh? You get it? We're talking about stuff that's already known and vetted to be associated with radiation. With man-made, not bananas, because they can't mutate anything. Not potato chips, because, you guessed it, they can't mutate anything. Okay? Because, and I'll show you a clip of the lawyers later on, the one I done up this morning. It'll really drive the point home for everybody at the end of this show today. Okay, let's keep going. Let's rock them, let's roll them, let's move them, let's groove them. Let's hit them below the belt as many times as we can. It's okay to kick nuclear apologists when they're down. It's okay to stomp on them till they can't breathe anymore. Just figuratively speaking, don't cut it out and use it to demonize me. And just give everybody, all the puke machines out there, that information. So 3 dead rats. 3 dead rats. I haven't got the picture there. Like I said, I'm not covering pictures today. I do got a few in there. Mutation of pink grasshoppers. It's because we got 90 headlines to burn through in 1 hour, so I'm not really going to go into the actual paragraphs. More plant mutation observed, and cases are on the rise. October 9th. Dum, 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 dum. Unusual abundance of, and I'm not even trying to pronounce that one. So mutations recorded again, and was here in this food. Tokyo are under the delusion that things are normal, while Fukushima remains a war zone. Okay, now, while we're on a picture, so I can find my way back to that spot, because I'm on the same setup here, the same. Let me explain something to you. Let me explain. You can see all the charts in the background. Now, these are modelings based upon a couple of releases for just a couple of days from a single reactor. And so before we go any further, Fukushima was 9.0 earthquake. Was it about it was just off the coastline. It was and it snapped off 180, about 100 miles off the coastline. Snapped off 180 mile, 85 mile. I can verify that one. I can't remember how far off the coastline it is anymore. 70 miles or something. I gotta figure that out before I say it again. But it just like slipped me. So a 9.0 earthquake, it shook the country for 6 minutes. Imagine a blanket in the wind. That's what happened to the country. You can see the roads in Tokyo splitting apart and rising up and down and pulling apart. You can see all the buildings in Tokyo swaying. You can see, if you go look at the pictures on any of my YouTube videos, there's 2,000 pictures at TEPCO's website. You can see where the ground at Fukushima was lifted up 6 feet and shifted 8 feet to the northeast. In the pictures, you can see the highways are broken and and everything else, right? But you can see the same thing for Tokyo during that earthquake and other countries. But you got to realize a tsunami came in. And that kind of obliterated. You didn't drive in and see all the broken roads like you normally would have. Because everything was covered in tsunami debris. So this tsunami debris came through the country. And the tsunami went through many plants. Roughly around 15 plants were affected directly and flooded directly by the tsunami. And I'll explain that a little tiny bit. We'll run back over the headlines. Meltdowns. This is Unit 1. This makes Chernobyl look like a paper towel all on its own. It had reactor cores, 5 million pounds in each one of them, on the roof. The reactors hold 3,840 assemblies. Each assembly has 80 rods. Each rod is 18 pounds and 12 feet long. Do the math yourself. This is Unit 2. This is confirmed all gone. They done it with this special multi-million-dollar, I can't even remember the name of it. But anyway, it's like a big X-ray. And you look through it and the core is missing. Of course it's missing. They reach like 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures in all these buildings. See, this one is self-explanatory, is it not? You can look at that one and say, okay, Dana, kind of got me on that one. That one's probably got a little tiny bit of releases, because that's what the apologists will tell you. And that's Unit 4. And Unit 4, Seth Dorn says he's inside of it.
Commissioning work
taking
place
Unit
here in
shut your pie hole. Now, meanwhile, this is Unit 4. They tore it all down. How can he? Now, that's TEPCO. Coming up, that's TEPCO telling you a month ago. And I'll just play that and we'll come back to the headlines. Here's TEPCO. That picture, he says, is inside of that. I'm not kidding you. And I'm going to play it for you. It's only less than a minute, and we'll go back over the headlines.
And Fukushima Daiichi stage, right after the accident, it was, of course, the emergency condition. But right now, gradually became the decommissioning
better,
stage,
like magic.
More stable decommissioning stage.
we home prayed every night.
As I mentioned, the successful.
See, this is a month ago. This makes me scream and rage every time I look at it. But this is a month ago. He's saying that. A month ago. He's inside of that. Will somebody please tell him that showing us perfect pictures of a building we already got pictures of is not very smart. Let me be polite. Let's keep going with the headlines now. Headlines. Scroll down. Now, at the same time, let me bang through some of the modelings. So you see in the buildings, Canada went out, found the plume coming right into the coastline, and done the modelling on it. Many institutions done modelling based upon what they said. Canada went out and showed it. Other countries took models based upon just 2 days releases. Man released not that one, but say that one's from dust storms. Look how dust comes across. Yeah. I'm sorry, that is radiation, or is it? I can't remember. I thought this one. No, that one's radiation. All of western U.S., most of Canada. See, the whole ocean was a plume. Not only in the ocean, but above the ocean was a plume. It's important you understand that all the models are based upon just a couple of days releases, not the actual meltdowns at the reactors. It's just a couple of days releases. So the sea models, if you can see radiation, look like that. That's 25 pounds a day. And Fukushima has released incredible millions and millions and millions of pounds just on consuming rocks and rebar and steel and cement and ionizing and radiating and atomizing and aerosoling them. Okay, let's keep going with the mutations anyway. So it lands everywhere throughout your country is what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah? So we're back to the mutations in 2011. Top World Health Organization. Now, the World Health, IAEA, and all these other ones, these were all the same people on each organization. And we covered that on Friday with that 2-hour special of how we're being deceived by 100 people. How 100 people are setting policies. And we'll play a video of 2 of them coming up, so you can really get some grip on it. There's evidence that a kind of genetic mutation is being passed on after Chernobyl meltdown to kid after kid. Now at Chernobyl, there's orphanage after orphanage after orphanage in Belarus alone that we know about. Radiation caused mutation like fingers growing out of a shoulder. A stutter on that one. Other deformities in future humans. Mutated rabbit. Let's keep going. So lower radiation doses because it's man-made. It's not from nature. You're not worried about nature. Anybody tells you like a banana or potato chip, tell them they're a moron. If it's in real life, tell them they're stupid and you're not going to listen to them, walk away. If they're teaching you that in university, try to get their degree taken away from them. Complain to whoever they got the degree that the teacher's trying to teach you a lie. Trying to get you to puke up nuclear puke. And hold them accountable. Even if you lose your degree, hold them accountable. Stand your ground. You'll become a hero. That's what we got to start doing, is lecturing all these. See, keep going. Japanese kiddies. Now this picture coming up is hard to watch, but it's similar to what they've seen throughout Chernobyl. Victims. Just back from Chernobyl, a mutation not seen anywhere else in the world. Much greater frequency in contaminated areas. Directly proportional to radiation levels. And so, former editor of the Japanese Times, concerned about mutated raccoon dogs, as Yoshi Shimatsu. That's pre-Fukushima, I think. He was talking about. Strange report by the former editor of the Japanese Times about animals. You got to realize how much radiation is being dumped in your rivers and lakes and estuaries and streams into your local landfills, burned in incinerators throughout Japan now. On top of that, tree leaves were gigantic after Chernobyl, witches, broom effect. We see that. Fukushima, birds unable to fly in highly radiated areas. Baby humpback whale found dead near Tokyo Bay. Vegetable mutations harvested north of Tokyo. Now, to put it into perspective, how they decontaminate a farmer's field. Get a load of this. They plow it in the ground. Or they put a couple of inches of topsoil on top of it and mix it up. They might dig off the top a couple of inches, which is what I recommended back in the day. And they went ahead and done it a few months later, start doing it. I'm not saying they were listening to me. I'm saying I was saying that over and over and over in video after video back then. Mind you, 300 of my videos are gone from my site because the government made me take them down so I can be free along and come out and redo these videos all again, so to speak. Because I'm not allowed to, the people that accuse me are the 2 biggest speakers for the University of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and Harvard. I'm sorry, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, the 2 major Fukushima disgusting maggots. So I'm not allowed to say that when they say bananas and potato chips, I'm not allowed to say that that's a lie when I go to court, because that's how maniacal the nuclear industry is. They got that. I'm not allowed to use that in court as a defense, as context for why we had a dispute, because that's all we had was a dispute that they're lying sacks of shit murdering people by telling them to go ahead and eat the fish. From Fukushima, we done 260 days on the coastline, right? Vegetable mutations. So I'm just trying to give you a history and examples at the same time of how this works. Harvested north of Tokyo. So like all you do at the farmer's field is just flip the soil and grow vegetables there and sell it locally. No one will buy it except for people who don't know better and immigrants who can't read. An increased mutation level was apparent in 1987. IAEA, US EPA, Chernobyl environmental impact. Chernobyl biologists. Man-made monster-sized discovery potatoes like giant hands. 2012. I think I got that one there. mutated vegetable. After the atomic bomb of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, vegetables grew huge and became mutated. Fukushima diary, December 1st, 2011, vegetables have gone gigantic. This is just an overwhelming amount of documentation of how this works. And your nuclear spring, like pollen and all this other stuff, I don't know if I got those headlines here. Because I've covered it in increments over time, but I haven't really done a whole video on it. And Annie down in, hang on a second, I'll just bring up a quick picture for everybody. I'll get rid of the other one right quick. Annie down in Australia is sitting around, put together a nice little painting and sent me a copy of it, inspired by one of my videos, the dead fish on the beach, blood on the water, children in rags, wonder what the hell happened. And Australia, of course, is notorious for surfing. And she doesn't know what to do with her painting. And I figured I'd give it a plug out here, just so she knows. All that work wasn't in vain. Today was the topic. I read the email last night, looked at the picture and said, you know, that reminds me of a folder I got on mutations. And so that was the theme of the day's show. It was based upon that picture. And so Annie inspired a video. I'm not saying everybody go ahead and send me emails of stuff that, like, and I don't care if you do, but I'm just saying don't go ahead and do it just because I showed that, right? Anna, maybe it's Anna Ishori. A-N-N-A. Anna A, I think was her last name, or her last initial. But it was a very simple email and a picture and a thank you. And so, think about the headlines I'm showing you. We're going to go right back to it. NBC, look at all the links. You can just link over, open it up. I'm not going to do it because we got a stream going out. Look, you got the Independent. You got all these links to that story. Do you even remember what that story was? Dead animals litter California beaches. So radiation doesn't just mutate, it kills too. And good morning to everybody. Bruce, CJ, Checks and Balances. We'll come and say hi after. Elaine. Thank you, Elaine. Anthurst. Huntert. CJ, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Pam. Everybody else. Good morning. Candace is out there, we know. Shabazz. It seems we're here to say hi to a few people. Good morning, everyone. Bruce. Anybody I didn't get, my apologies. Let's keep rocking and rolling. And once again, Radchick got an extraordinary amount on this topic. And also on the Wiggler Effect. If you're going to go watch that, you need to go watch her videos, her series with Lorraine Moore on one of the world's leading experts. And one of her closest friends on top of that. So she's got all this education anyway, plus all this extra tutoring from an outstanding source like Lorraine. Let's keep going on the headlines. And so you only need rain once in your country, but you had stupid amount of rain, and it's still coming on, it's still leaking out of those, I shouldn't say that word, still flying out of those reactors, still massive amounts every day going into your atmosphere, let alone your oceans. Newly published photos of birds' abnormalities in areas contaminated with radiation, USC study. And February 8, 2012, that one. Could Fukushima produce bacteria resistant to antibiotics? See, that's one of the most important things. Like, in every facet of your life, bacteria is one of the most important facets of your life. Whether you understand that or not. And your food and everything else, it's everywhere. It's your gut bacteria, your hand bacteria, the type of soaps that you're using, and laundry detergents and solvents and everything for cleaning your home. Can take this natural bacteria off your body, and you need that. And take it out of your body. Like GMO will take it out of your body. Better keep rolling because I won't get through all of my headlines if we're not careful. But bacteria is a really important one because we see that in Chernobyl where the trees, and now Fukushima where the trees don't rot because all the bacteria that would break down the trees are gone. and reports of enormous increases in cancer deaths on 3 Mile Island. Infant mortality rates doubled and birds disappeared, and many mutations were observed over long periods of time. They hid that all away from you, eh? They done a really good job of it too. And I know some of these people now. I got their name, I got their number. I'll be putting out their nonsense pretty soon too. I already got them on the desktop. 3 Mile Island source. Counting the cost, 3 Mile Island. Now you can't trust CBC for much, right? Because they'll muddle the water constantly. But old stuff, you never know what might slip out. 3 Mile Island was lots of mutations, birds disappeared. Infant mortality rates doubled. Enormous increase in cancer deaths in children in 4 countries surrounding 3 Mile Island counties, compared to the number previous of accidents per year in those months or whatever. That the health department listed even on, say, leukemia. Animals and plants damaged substantially. In-depth report on plant life. Many mutations. The leaves were the first year. All the birds on the farms disappeared. The trees looked like winter. Defoliaging, and we saw trees defoliage at different levels. I've documented that throughout the coastline of British Columbia, Canada. We're right across from Japan. The currents get here in 45 days. The wind gets here in 3. Professor now reveals a high level of radioactive material detected over 1,000 kilometers from Fukushima last April. 1,000 kilometers that they emit to, see? So mutations throughout the whole country, because the whole country is radiated, is what I'm trying to... but we've covered 9,000 headlines for Went on the Ocean. And remember, this is just a headline of many links of mainstream media, all mainstream media. Mutant microorganisms in universities and institutions thrived and melted, not them, but the microorganism mutant at 3 Mile Island. Once again, documentation of the mutations and the worriness of the extinction event now playing out in the Pacific Ocean and the coastline of British Columbia in particular, and America, North America, all the way down to Chile. I mean, there was a study finds now Chernobyl was nothing compared to what happened at Fukushima and continues to happen at Fukushima. Chernobyl's still releasing, for goodness sakes. They're putting a new sarcophagus that still can't contain it over, because if you try to contain the noble gases, it'll detonate. They have to vent it. But they try to control the venting. That's all. By controlling it, it's setting it up a stack. You can't wait. It has to go all the time, because if it builds up, oxygen can detonate it. Study finds Fukushima. Now, you don't need fire. Oxygen will detonate the noble gases. Study finds Fukushima worse than Chernobyl. Of course it is. Fukushima has 4 melted buildings full of reactor cores, and 3 of them had reactors in the reactor at the time running. This is incredible amounts. This dwarfs Chernobyl, and it's like a grain of rice and a 50-pound bag of rice, and you got to count how many grains are in that 50-pound bag. That's how many facets and aspects of Fukushima are more important than Chernobyl and more deadly than Chernobyl. Chernobyl was 1/3 the size, 30% meltdown, stopped after 10 days per se. Still releasing it, they're still trying to put a sarcophagus over 30 years later. But it's not in a chain reaction, like, even though it could be down in the earth somewhere, we don't know. You can't believe anything these creatures tell you from the industry. I'll show you a video after why that becomes so observant and easy for anybody to recognize once I show you a clip coming up later. Elevated DNA mutation rates and extinction. Insect life significantly reduced. Shows immediate consequences of radiation. I gotta watch when I'm flicking from screen to screen over here. And slow it down a notch so I can pronounce some of these words. Low level radiation appears to have had immediate effects on bird population in Fukushima Prefecture. Areas surveyed are mostly still open to human occupation. Worse than expected. More pronounced in Chernobyl. Chernobyl was devastating on the population. They might have migrated back through now because no one's hunting them, but if you actually go look at it, it's not a big population. They try to claim it is, but it's actually not. The insects are gone, the biota is gone, the bacteria is gone, from the trees won't even break down, the foliage won't break down because the bacteria is all gone, and the insects and all the other stuff is gone. So it's only predators you're seeing there, and that's what they're talking about, big visible animals, predatory on other animals that were driven into that area from predators. A lot of wolves, right? So they'll drive animals out into territories where animals normally don't go to get away from them. I've seen animals swim, you know, the islands to get away from other animals a number of times up north here. Low-level radiation appears to have an immediate effect. An immediate effect. Well, because it attacks the larvae, the small fries, we got all kinds of studies on how that works. Switch gears for 1 second. Hang on. Just got to cover a couple of headlines over the last couple of days before I forget about it, because otherwise, this happens to me too many times anyway. Fukushima government donated 10,000 bottles of tap water. I'll move myself over a little tiny bit. Think about that one. Fukushima government donated. This is crazy to the people in southern Japan who had massive earthquakes. By the way, those earthquakes haven't stopped. Aftershocks. Some of these are massive earthquakes. Well, because they come and tricked everybody with a 1 to 7 scale, right? And then they also throw in the 1 to 10 scale. So the original earthquakes were 8.8, 9.6s. That's why it wrecked all those cities down there. It was right on the coastline, though, right underneath them. It was 10 miles underground. He said, "Oh no, Japanese always check their TV to see how much shaking it is because it's always." No, it's not. There were always that was rare to get shallow earthquakes. So the law came right away where they come out with a 1 to 7 scale instead of a 1 to 10 scale, but I never bothered telling anybody it was the Japan scale, not the international scale. Dirty scum. And now Fukushima is sending radiated water. Everything in Fukushima is completely contaminated. It's disgusting. So they can kill 10,000 people 10, 20, 30 years down the road. You tell me that's not sick. You tell me that's not evil. You tell me these people are not disconnected. At a touch. So if the radiation down there now falls below 8,000 becquerels, right, now it becomes just normal waste. If you got 8,000 becquerels now, a kilogram of it, and detonated in the city, it's a dirty bomb. Hanford, not Fukushima, counterpunch. See, a melter reactor is different than nuclear waste. Nuclear waste is not a melter reactor. It's not a chain reaction. They're completely different animals. I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm not saying it's not deadly. I'm not saying it's not vicious. I'm saying those headlines are misleading on purpose. On purpose. If you read through the whole article, you can see how hard they work to make it that way. And they can't back it up under scrutiny. It's shocking. So the other headline, here's the part was missing. 8,000 becquerels. The radioactive cesium. They're only testing for cesium, which is a tracer. It's a tracer. That means you check for all the other isotopes. But if the tracer goes down to 8,000 becquerels, which is murder if you drink it. If I gave you a glass of water with 8,000 becquerels of cesium, I'd murder. And someone see me do it, that's murder. They're out of control. The nuclear industry completely, they're heartless and soulless, and they're completely out of control. Well, nothing better tells that story than the video. So let's come over and play that little video, because otherwise I won't get it off my chest. It's a 6-minute video. It's a 6-minute video. We're going to come back to the mutation headlines. How are we doing on time? 11:09. We're going to run a little over schedule today. 6 minutes at this. We're going to go over and start banging into those headlines again. We got lots to get through yet, but this is the most important video you'll ever watch in your life. This is the most, I think so. When I was making it, now I'd done the prep work all weekend to dig, because it was a 2-hour video that I yanked to set up. It's about 2 people that are academics and that are in unusual positions. And the first 2 minutes is John Boyce talking about, and there'll be this is 2012 at the National Press Club. You got to be an accredited journalist to get in there and sit down, and so it's behind closed doors. And what they're there is to tell the journalists what to write and what it all means, and that the journalists are there, like Matthew Wall, one of the most despicable people imaginable, was there. You won't hear him in this, but he was there. And funny how he shows up at the worst of the worst. But by proxy. But anyway, John is going to go talk about his whole education and that he sets policies and everything else, okay? That first 2 minutes is him going Tarzan. Here we go. I'll bring it up full screen. And I'll adjust the audio on the fly. Watch your audio, folks. It could get loud.
My name is John Boyce. I'm professor of medicine at Vanderbilt University and also the president-elect of the National Council on Radiation Protection and Measurements. And I'm a radiation epidemiologist. My entire career, I've studied populations all over the world exposed to ionizing radiation, including Chernobyl cleanup workers, medical populations, workers, underground miners. I'm one of the delegates to the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, and we're reviewing the Fukushima situation now. I'm also on the main commission of the International Commission on Radiological Protection, where we have a task force where we're also trying to evaluate the lessons learned from the Fukushima circumstances. I'm also on the Veterans Advisory Board for dose reconstruction, which also is involved in providing some oversights and thoughts on our U.S. military that were around Fukushima and help with the recovery. In March of last year, the week before the tsunami hit and the earthquake, I was in Hiroshima on the Science Council for the Radiation Effects Research Foundation. And this is where the joint governments, the United States and Japan, we continue to study the atomic bomb survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's been ongoing for over 60 years. A week later, I had left Tokyo, and then the horrific natural disaster occurred. I then went back to Fukushima in September as part of an expert panel in Fukushima City, where scientists from all over the world were providing advice to the Japanese authorities and the Japanese government with regard to circumstances of what could be done in this aftermath. And my focus at that time was on health effects.
Thank you very much. John, I think he's kind of queued you up for...
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robert Gale. I'm a visiting professor of...
Okay. Now, this guy is Robert Gale, and he radiates people for a living. He kills people like that for a living. And just remember, 2% of the people get chemotherapy will live any longer than they were expected. They were most likely healthy. And everybody else died before they would have if they didn't get it, allegedly. So chemotherapy is where you inject, just a quick note, chemotherapy is where you inject nuclear waste into your friends and your families and your loved ones after signing a piece of paper that absolves them of any culpability. The reality of it was the people that are doing it are not educated on man-made nuclear waste and isotopes at all. They're educated on doses and stuff like that. And these are all experimental. But this guy is the most scariest thing imaginable. He don't look like it, I know, but he's the most scariest thing you can imagine, as you'll see coming up.
Hematology at the Imperial College in London. And I'm an MD PhD. And I treat people with cancer, and so my background in entering this is really fundamentally giving. I'm involved very much in transplants, bone marrow transplants, because you may know that we use extraordinarily high doses of radiation to prepare people for transplants, and that very much simulates the situation that could occur or did occur in Chernobyl and other radiation accidents. So my colleagues and I are the people who actually have hands-on experience treating high-dose radiation victims. And lifetime cancer risk, for example, I said that for a Japanese or American male at the age of 50, it's about 1 in 2, 50% is your lifetime cancer risk.
For a Japanese male. For a Japanese male. How did it get 1 in 2? See? He doesn't explain that. That's quite a statement on its own, isn't it? We're going to jump in and out, so I'll leave the camera there. Let's keep going.
Which is somewhat discouraging. I think several people have said to me in hearing that if I have to get cancer, I hope I get a good one. I get prostate cancer and not lung cancer. But, you can make that worse by being a smoker, as you can see.
Smoking, cigarettes got 7,000 chemicals in it. Right? He's not going to tell you that, is he? Well, I can show you, I'll play it. But he's not going to tell you that there's 7,000 chemicals in a cigarette. And I'm going to have a cigarette that doesn't have 7,000 chemicals. These are not going to cause the same issues that 7,000 chemicals will. But he's going to blame it on phosphates or radon or something in the tobacco, right? I can't remember. Hang on.
From that thermometer.
Mine don't
but there are some other things.
What
do we consider negligible? Where does a CT, probably fit in? And then the final slide will just show you, where on that thermometer does something like Fukushima lie. Now
so he's using a thermometer to explain his narrative, which is like a banana potato chip walking on a beach.
You'll hear a lot of detailed scientific discussions.
I'll show you in a second.
Our uncertainties.
See that cow right in the middle there? That's Kathleen Higley. I done a 2-hour show on her. She's one of the top 5 on the planet, and she makes policies for Congress and everybody else. I done a 2-hour show on her because she is demented. Somebody should tell her what man-made, the difference between man-made and natural. She should go get her money back for her degree, for starters.
That we shouldn't really be talking about point estimates. We should be talking about ranges. But yeah, I think what people want to know, what the public want to know, what I have to deal with, and when I'm in Tokyo, and people ask me, or the workers ask me, what is my risk from getting 50 millisieverts? They want to know really where. I'm sorry, if you can go back.
Hang on, I'll bring that. He'll come back to it in a minute. I'll bring that up. Smoking 14 cigarettes a day is a bigger risk than people in Fukushima, according to him. This is a guy who treats people for cancer with man-made radiation. Eating 25 cups of peanut butter, spending 20 days in New York is worse for you than being at Fukushima. Driving 600 kilometers in a car is worse than being at Fukushima. Flying 40,000 kilometers in a plane is worse than being at Fukushima. Kayaking for 15 minutes. And 1 millisievert radiation is worse than being at Fukushima. If you ingest it in your body attacks it with white blood cells nonstop around the clock for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, for decades. That's right. Your spleen goes into overdrive, your joints go into overdrive, producing white blood cells. None of that happens from anything you're seeing on the screen. But here's a doctor who's one of the most authoritative people on the planet, setting policies, out there telling press it's like smoking 14 cigarettes. It's like driving 600 kilometers in the car. Would you want that person making a decision on your children or your friends or your families on cancer treatment after seeing that? Do you think that person should have a degree after seeing that? Do you think that person should not be investigated by the medical board or proctologist after that? He told you what his history was, did he not? Well, treat cancer patients. We give him a lot of radiation doses. That was just the weirdest experience watching him, isn't it? Let's 9:20. Oh, okay, that took a little bit longer. Let's keep going for that a little bit longer.
Where am I on that thermometer? They don't care if it's
7,000
2 in 10,000 or 4 in 10,000, which is a huge scientific difference. But just where am I on that calendar, on that thermometer? And I think these kinds of expressions, give a better sense to the public, and that's certainly an area where we can improve. And I guess the final slide, I'm sorry, it wasn't the final slide, is just looking at comparable risks of death is another way of trying to express these things to the public. So getting 1 millisievert of radiation, which is just on the bottom, is equivalent to just smoking just 14 cigarettes, period. Not 14 cigarettes a day, but
these are the compatible, is what he tells nuclear workers, what he tells communities, what he tells the media of Fukushima, being at Fukushima, even being at Fukushima.
Smoking 14 cigarettes. And you can see some other amusing things like eating 20.
See, that's a good word, wasn't it? Amusing things. Amusing. Cancer.
5 cups of peanut butter. Peanut butter has a risk of containing aflatoxin, which is can cause your death or can cause.
And people are allergic to it. It's just
liver cancer, driving 600 kilometers. So that really helps people quite a bit in understanding.
No, it don't. You make people stupid. You're telling the media to go out and puke that up.
Where they should,
the National Press
place the risk of Fukushima. So I'll stop there and
thank you.
Okay.
Return it to you.
Your turn to knock.
Natural expression. Cancer epidemiology and risk. Okay.
Right. No, that was an excellent overview, and of course you should take away with it that the.
Here's a guy who sets the policy, doesn't hold him to account, doesn't say, "Hey, wait a second, that's actually lies." You can't be telling people like that. Please look, I'm an expert, folks. Disregard that. How come he doesn't do something like that? That's not great analogy. Here's why. Listen to this.
Exposures to the populations are very, very low, and as such, there's no opportunity to conduct epidemiologic studies that have any chance of detecting excess risks. The doses are just too low.
Doses are too low.
Too, on the meter, just to mention, even though I spent all this time right next to the reactors,
right next to the reactors. Listen to those words.
Received more radiation on my transcontinental flights from Tokyo to Washington than I did at the reactor site. So I tried to use that in terms of the altimeters went off scale, but it's not that it was off scale, and I didn't stay there that long to even get a meaningful
I was
dose.
very concerned, Dr. Boyce, when you see that meter doing this number.
He was talking about, earlier in the video, he was talking about how the meter went right off the scale, and he flicked it to the next scale, and right off the scale, he flicked to the next scale, and right off the scale. But I wasn't there long enough to be hurt. No, neither, and nobody else was either, is what he says. And he said, got more radiation. That's where that comment came from anyway. He got more radiation, because I chopped up the video. He got more radiation flying there than he did right alongside the reactors that are melted down, melt-throughs, meltouts. Where Harvard, Yale, Berkeley, MIT, Stanford, Oxford, the Commonwealth, none of these institutions have actually been there, and we're the only people that claim to actually go there, like Seth Dorn and Miles O'Brien and TEPCO showing you the fake pictures
of the decommissioning work taking place
brand
here
new building,
in Reactor 4.
Reactor 4. Now he done that whole documentary saying he's inside of that building, and TEPCO and him and Miles O'Brien have come out.
Hello and welcome. I'm Miles O'Brien, the science correspondent for the
This guy.
News Hour.
At Unit 4.
The Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, granted the new...
Anyway, I'm not going to play it, but let's go back to the headlines and bang through them. We're going to be a little bit late today before the show's over. An extra 10 minutes or something. I'm just looking for my spot. There it is. There are no sparrows, said the bird watchers. I'm going to burn through these. Both young daughters contracted leukemia after cleaning up the meltdown. Spring brings fallout. So your pollen is radioactive forever now. Cesium believed to cause genetic mutations. Increase in frequencies of selected death due to mutations. Very low doses, but they're man-made, see? They're not like sunshine or bananas. Mutated plants in Tokyo. Unbelievable. If Unit 4 gets a crack, I just showed you that. It's gone. It was gone. We lost it. It's gone. Like Suzuki said, you got goodbye Japan, evacuate North America. Well, that was the cover-up, but it was the truth. But it's already gone. I showed you that just now. I'm not going back till after. I'm only showing you 500 more times. Japan Times on plant mutations. Tree died and others grew in abnormal shape. Babies born this year may be working at Fukushima Daiichi one day. And fascination dandelions reported very often. 2012. It reminds me of Silent Spring. We only found a few swallows. Plants are taken over and tall growth is unconnected to radioactivity. Weeds known to grow in areas that were burned or otherwise disturbed. No, it's not necessarily that the media comes out and says, no, it's not radiation when radiation is everywhere. How can you say it, is what I'm saying, right? Genetic mutations from radiation exposure are 100 times higher than anything we've encountered. July the 31st. Biologists mutated butterflies. Japan insects were believed to be very resistant. This is where they took soil, or they took plants out of houses that were abandoned and brought them back to their laboratory, and then took larvae butterflies and raised them on that leafage, that foliage, and this is what happened. Let's keep running. Let's run through these things. Professor, thyroid disease is already apparent. Disease, newborns, and Down syndrome still kept secret. 2012 August. It's pretty clear something has gone wrong. Comparisons to images and butterflies, stumped wings, scary, could be affected by mutation. Humans could be affected. The various low levels of radiation are harmful to life. That's why we have terrorist laws. That's why we have nuclear waste sites. See, we got to rethink it, because look, like the apologist I showed you earlier, lying to you and setting the policy at the same time and murdering your loved ones in the hospitals at the same time, and teaching students how to do it at the same time. Yeah, we got to change some policies. We got to bring in a law to convict these people and get them off our planet some way. Japan TV broadcast mutations in animals. Very few insects, only 2 birds. Professors see an increase in negative effects. Insects with legs growing from their heads. Okay, it's not fingers from your heads, but it's legs from your shoulders, but legs from their heads. Yeah? Likely at first mutant bugs, prefecture bordering Fukushima, but the radiation is all the way to North America, and as, like I showed you those charts earlier if you weren't watching the stream. You can go back and watch it in a higher quality at Beautiful Girl by Dana after the stream. About 3 hours after the stream is over, it'll be uploaded and rendered. It takes 3 hours, and then I can have my day back. We must be very careful using radiation. Flies with white eyes, no wings, extra wings. Yeah, and corn and plants. Oh, they'll fix that with GMO, Dana. Yeah. In the event of a nuclear Armageddon, don't eat the steak. Newborns, fetuses, concentrating contamination. Discovery.com. Radioactive cattle. So it's not just cattle, it has to be humans, right? If you look at Dr. Raymond Gilmetty's studies on beagle dogs and beagle puppies, curium was the biggest production of the isotopes. Very quick, we'll run through that very quick for everybody. Curium isotopes. But look at the studies on the beagle dogs and the beagle puppies, 144. And look at the third sentence from the top. 3 years after exposure, tumors and then bone tumors in 93 dogs. 46 dogs had the second most common. Lung tumors, liver tumors in 20 dogs. There's 94 studies there. You really don't need a big education to be able to understand what I'm showing you, because I bring it right to you in very layman terms, yeah? And so it's impossible to make a mistake about what I'm talking about. Let's keep burning through those headlines. Some plants were glowing after Chernobyl. Think about that one. So we're going to go another 10 minutes. And let me get rid of that. Excuse me. Some plants were glowing after Chernobyl. Monstrous mutations. But claims wildlife is now healthy, right? This is the nuclear industry. Like the video I showed you earlier, claim is like getting on an airplane, right? And claiming that it's like smoking a cigarette, or like 600 miles in a car, or like eating peanut butter. These people are whack jobs, and they're murdering you in your community. Actually physically murdering you in your institution. Are you going to sit there and take it? Are you going to be an idiot and just buy into it? Truly unusual deformities, not the hounds, of course, but to the people that are somehow still on a shelf about this. Forests may be evolving into different ecosystems. Yeah, because all the bacteria was killed off right away. And so then all the little critters that need that survive with that. No insects, no animals on the surface can survive without the bacteria. You know, like we're way up the food chain, but the effects are showing up and they're going to be deadly. Just like Dr. Raymond Gilmedi studies on the big old dogs show. Everybody was ingesting hot particles in North America and around the world, but not as bad as North America, but it's bad. Just because it wasn't as bad don't mean it's not bad. Just because the first couple of days plumes were big don't mean every other plume is not bad. Just because when the buildings blew up, you got to think about a chain reaction. It's eating rocks and steel and rebar and cement, and it's turning them into vicious killers at a phenomenal numbers. The numbers are inconceivable. You can't even wrap your mind around these numbers. Invisible snowstorms all year long is what's happening right now, radiation, and it's catching up to us. We get cancers 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. 1,800 diseases will show up before that. Alzheimer's, dementia, autism. Mutation in the insects is the bird in the coal mine, so to speak. Shooting nuclear waste into the sun. This is the Obama administration trying to come up with an idea because no one is telling them the truth. They're telling us like a banana and a potato chip, and then they're looking at that and saying, well, how do we get rid of that? They're too stupid because no one's really going to educate them because you're scared the shit out of them. Wave of slightly radioactive water from Fukushima. Predicted. Just a quick note. The ocean currents, not to mention the jet streams are boat reel. Ocean current, the corrosion current at 5 miles an hour times 24 hours in a day. I know that's hard for people to wrap their mind around. There's just 24 hours in a day at 5 miles an hour each time. So 5 times 24. Can you get that? 5 times 24 times 45. If it was just going into the ocean. It's not like it was a single plume like they tell you though. They're nowhere near that. It's constantly coming out in the ocean, constantly going. They're pouring water over it, and anything that ends up into the wells where they dug a hole, if the water runs that way, they try to suck it up and put it in the tank. Everything else goes out. Then it's got a river underneath it. The fuel rods blew up all over the site. Every time it rains or snows, they're spraying water all over this stuff, washing it down through, and then the river behind it runs and washes it straight out. The whole site is just one festering nightmare, and they got to stay on the site or they're going to lose that site. That's the problem. You got to throw 6 million people away. They won't do it like they done at Chernobyl. Oh, sorry, that's not what we wanted. Let's burn through a couple more and we'll call it quits, I guess. Contamination of our food and land now affecting the way we think. It's 2001. Quote. But it's okay, Dana. It's just the death of the Pacific Ocean. Don't worry about it, Dana. You spent 260 days out there, and you got thousands of pictures up at the nuclear proctologist, and nobody will look at it. Nobody in the media will come out and talk about it. Everybody said, no, Dana, you're not a scientist, therefore what you've done, all the pictures you took are useless. Dana, it's just pictures. You're not a scientist. You don't say it's like a banana. You don't say it's like flying to Tokyo, Dana, so it's useless. We can't use it because you're telling the truth, Dana. Something very odd is happening in the Pacific. Plutonium releases from Fukushima plant highlighted in the final sentence of butterfly mutation study. We're human guinea pigs in an experiment. It's an utter betrayal that sitting professionals, like I showed you earlier, treating people for cancer are here lying to you, telling us like smoking a cigarette or like driving across 600 miles or getting on an airplane. Is untenable. It's unbearable. It's unimaginable. But that's the reality of it. Here's the press club was sitting in front of them. A positive way. Time magazine is disgusting, by the way. This is despicable, soulless institution and journalists. These are heartless people. Just like the two professors I showed you earlier. These are vicious thugs. Laughing in glee. They got all this education. They're on all these boards. They're setting all these policies. That John was even on the Veterans Board, radiation reconstructing with doses that were killing them. They're always trying to kill off the veterans, right? These are sick people in need of mental help. They need to be put in a psychiatric unit and studied intently till they die. We need to waterboard each of these a couple of 100,000 times and get all the information out of them. Not that we can trust it anyway, so why not just go ahead and waterboard them until they freaking drown? These are not human like me and you. They don't have any kind of a attachment to the human experience like me or you. They don't care about anybody or anything at any time on this planet. I showed you the videos of their education, what they do for a living, and you can imagine the rest by what they said. When they mitigated it to the point where it's laughable and not even plausible, and where anybody can disprove their lies, and that that the media just yucks it up and pukes it back out. At the press club in Washington. Is that not an utter betrayal? Is that not utterly despicable? Is that not something that cannot continue? Is that not something worth changing? Is that not frightening that people like that are know the difference, are telling everybody it's like one thing and murder your children because they have the education to know it's not like? And that the way they talk, they come there to do that to you on purpose. He flew in to do that on purpose. Right? Put out that video to the press club to tell them, hey, you know, I take care of cancer patients all the time. Like, I know a thing or two, you know. Gee, boy, you know, wow, that's a tough job, man. Yeah, don't worry about it, though, because like a banana. Why don't you treat them with bananas and potato chips? Why are you treating them with man-made nuclear waste, and you got to get them to sign a piece of paper before you do it? So you can't be held accountable for their death, and you know they're going to die. Everyone dies of that treatment. Everybody. There's nobody survives much longer. Except for 2% who probably didn't even have it originally. If you went to Las Vegas and the odds were 2% you can walk out with some money, would you go into that casino? Would you let your friends or your families and loved ones go into that casino? Why? Why not just give it to the homeless on the side of the road? Why not just donate it to somebody out there? Anything but a corporation. Anything but those big organizations. Anything but the ones who have never done anything about this, who never tried, who never hold anybody accountable. I suffer all the time and agonize all the time. Why am I doing this? I just need to look at myself in the mirror and I know why I'm doing it. I just need to look at my friends or my families or my loved ones, or look at documentation of 260 miles of the coastline where I suffered like you can't even imagine, willingly, happily. You know, I'm privileged to go out and record this and share it with everybody, and that's not enough. It's not enough for me. I have to come here 5 days a week at least and create this roster of data and documentation and information, and bring it all together and work tirelessly for this 1 hour live stream. So every day there was something tangible for people on this planet, for journalists and academics and science, to say, hey, wait a second. What if Dana Durnford, the nuclear proctologist, .org is telling the truth? And we didn't listen. What if that is the way that just played out? And when that one person begged for everybody to please give me that opportunity to listen, before it was too late, he was ignored and ridiculed and demonized and vilified and hated and attacked. Hugs for everybody, because I'll be back tomorrow.